And so this is a meeting where we're talking about rezoning 1007 Woodlawn from a parking zoning to a commercial zoning. And the purpose of the meeting is to get input or answer questions, and that we would summarize any questions or feedback that we have in a report to the city as they consider the rezoning request. And so as a prelude, I'll just back up to say, so we super appreciate being in the neighborhood, and we appreciate being neighbors, you know, with the Buddhist community that's kind of surrounding that corner store. And this local food operation that started in 2022 at that location has really grown. Like, it's become very popular. And we want to find out, you know, make sure we can stay in the neighborhood. The way the store works is individual farms come and make deliveries. It's not like it's a normal store with a truck with a gate and a pallet coming down. It's farmers parking in their pickup trucks, and almost everything gets hand carried into this store. And the way it currently operates is that most of the deliveries stop on Woodlawn, and we go through a side door into 1226 Packard where Argus is. And we also, under that same lease to Argus, they have the 1007 Woodlawn property, which is a historical parking lot. But it's a terrible parking lot in that you couldn't really have public park there because it's very narrow, and it's very hard to maneuver in there. And we've had sufficient parking on the street that we haven't used it. It hasn't been used for customer parking ever that I know of. But we do now use it as a service area for Argus, where we store all of our materials, like the farm crates. Once they're emptied, they stack them out there, which technically you can't do in a parking zoned area. Like, we're doing things that are not compatible with parking right now. And so we approached the city to ask them, how can we better operate here? Because we want to be in compliance with zoning, but we also have a very, you know, a local neighborhood store that's popular, that's getting busier, and we need to be able to use that for both what we talked about as farm delivery support and storage of items. And so their suggestion was just rezone it to make it the same as 1226. And it's actually surrounded by also, hey, come on in.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
You want to see his masterful drawing.
Where should I see?
Yeah, right here.
Yes.
Come on up. And so it's so the way that the deliveries work, the farmers now come and they drop off in the back door, and we store items at 1007 Woodlawn. And the city suggestion was just to rezone it as commercial, that it would support a service area. You could do better storage of items. You could, you could keep whatever you need for the store, which is largely what we're doing now, but we would be in compliance. And so we don't have any development, improvement plans per se for this, other than the zoning is to become compliant. And so that's the shortest version of what we're trying to do with 1007 Woodlawn, is make it compatible to be a service area for Argus and continue to be in support of kind of the operation of a grocery store in the neighborhood. So I say the purpose of the meeting was to answer any questions that you may have, or to and also to summarize any feedback, questions or concerns that you may have as well. So that's the shortest version of the story. It's since we don't have a fancy development, we don't have any project in mind or contemplated. It's not like other Ann Arbor projects, I think, but it is one that the neighbors, we sent out this to all of the neighbors. They said we invited 800 people to this party. We've had some feedback from people that have called. One person called, he couldn't make it tonight, so he wanted to know what we're doing. We gave him this information. But I'll pause right there and see if there's any questions, I guess.
You may have already talked about this, but how will this impact the Zen Center behind?
Yeah, so the Zen Center behind, so there's two things that are happening. One is getting rezoned just to support a service area, but it would be largely similar. There's a second, we're collaborating closely with the Zen Center, and we've got a representative from the Zen Center here as well. They currently, their whole access to this rear parking area cuts right through this delivery area. And so separate from the zoning, we also have a land transfer where we're kind of trading 20 feet at the back of this for this 20 feet. And so that we would have a contiguous area for the store service area, so you wouldn't have to block it with farm deliveries when someone's trying to get in the back parking area. And that there'd be a driveway that would allow access to the rear parking area that would be new, that's coming as well. And so I say there's a land transfer with a separate access for the Zen community here that we think is an improvement for everybody.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it definitely it'll keep our delivery and our service area of our store separate from all of the traffic that currently needs to traverse that behind the store area. Yeah. So that's kind of the extent here.
Are there different types of commercial zoning?
I'm not an expert on it. I think it's called C1, and they just said it should match. She said just this as a parking lot. She said it was a legacy type zoning that they used to put in as like a buffer area, and they're not anxious to keep them around the city. There's only a small handful of these that are left. So when I called, they were aware of this, and they're like, "Oh, you should make it the same as C1." Which is also the way these property lines run is it's surrounded by the Zen community property line as well, which is also the same commercial type zoning. So what it'll make is that corner will have it'll all match.
So the corner is zoned commercial as well?
Yeah, the corner, this I think 1226 should be C1 as well, and so I think this would be C1. Is what the proposal is.
Would someone be able to build a building there at some point, or an extension of it? Does that make it now available for new construction, or does it still have to be like a surface area?
So we don't have, when you do like a rezoning, you could submit and say, oh, we want to build this big building there, or you could not. And so we don't have plans to do that. The process, if you wanted to do it, so for us, I think the greatest in our imagination it could be is maybe instead of having all those farm crates out in the weather, that we would have like a more aesthetic storage building that could be built in a way that matches in the neighborhood that will let us store things under cover. But it would be, they've kind of warned us to do, if you do that, you have to go, you go back to a site plan level discussion. You need to make sure you've got your storm water figured out, and so so it's a complete start over once you do that. But we don't have any plans. We could have been prophetic and said, oh, we want to do, put a garage or some kind of shelter, but we just don't. We don't have any plans at the moment. Yeah. So we just said, let's try to get legal with what we're doing. Yeah. And we did, we're working to grant easements as well for the utilities, like the Zen Center buildings have a stormwater drain that goes through there, and the gas for their building goes through there. And so I think that also limits what you could do in terms of development. So at least our thought is that we may like put a door back here so you could directly access. Right now, every delivery for Argus comes across the sidewalk. It's a little bit awkward back here, but if we put a door back here, because now it'd be contiguous space, it will it'll let us have be able to pull in as a vehicle, do your delivery there, not block the sidewalk or not block the traffic like it's doing now. So you could have a little bit of a delivery area to pull in more than one vehicle.
You could load the produce boxes without having to go to the street.
Yeah, we do every week now. We do produce boxes where we deliver. We consolidate. We put together from all of the local farms like the best of that week into a box, and we're up around 250 a week that we make. And that's one of the big stressors of the neighborhood, because Tuesday all that farm produce is coming. We have to store it overnight, and then we make all these boxes. And right now we have to store them in this building, right, we have to store them in different places. And so this, it would significantly let us have a better operation for like the weekly produce boxes too, I think.
So with a curb cut on the east side,
Up here?
yep,
Yeah.
it'd be like, you would be able to drive through. It'd be a loop,
Yeah.
it'd be a loop, and then you wouldn't have to try to back out anymore.
So it's separate, so this, and like this discussion on the zoning, you know, we would take either way. Like the zoning, we'd like to be compliant, and parking, in parking lots, you're not allowed to store stuff. So like, it's a little dicey right now, but we would, the zoning for sure we'd like to do. Then separately, like, can we, as we've collaborated with the Zen community, no one has really enjoyed, as we've gotten busy, this traffic jam of farmers and Zen community members that happens right here. And so this would be, you know, the new entrance to access, and maybe, you know, like same parking area that they have now. That's kind of like roughly where they are. And this would be maintained just for the 1226 building for deliveries and access here. And so that's the new driveway that would go into, it's taking part of our parking lot. It's not encroaching onto their garden. It's just taking 20 feet of the back of our property, which is a long way to walk with boxes anyways, and saying, okay, let's make that a driveway, and we'll keep the 20 feet closer to the building. So that's the discussions we've had with the whole leadership of the Zen Center.
I have kind of a funny question.
Yeah.
How did you even know you were out of compliance with storing those boxes? Because I'm not, how would you even know, like, unless you're like digging through pages and pages of code? Did somebody report you? Like,
No,
like,
it's
how did you know?
No, no, it was our architect, because you know, we were trying to figure out how can we operate better, you know, and is there like just, you know, what we should do. And it's our retired architect. He's not. He worked with us on the first store, and he just said, well, that's zone parking, and parking, you know, and what. He said, parking, you can't store stuff. You know, you're really, because we, you know, like we wanted to maybe get an electric delivery vehicle at some point, and, you know, can you put a charging station there? And like parking zoning is very restricted. You know, parking is not a garage, it's not utilities, it's parking spots. And so,
Right.
So it's more just us digging into the code. But we at least, you know, we're surrounded by the Zen community, and we talk about stuff that, you know, to the extent that something is bugging us, we talk about it.
Well, I'm glad to know that no one was harassing you about it, because I was just
No.
thinking, like, what prompts something like this? How would you even know?
Yeah, it's, you know, it's just, you know, yeah, we're just trying to figure out how, as it's gotten busier, like how to, it's really this congestion here was the precipitator, and it made us start to think about how could we do it. And so that's what led us to, it's just more, you know, problem solving as we grow. Yeah.
Any more questions?
So it's no, but it's good. No, it's a good process, and no, we appreciate this. I think you know, what our plan will be is to at least kind of summarize the, you know, the questions that have been raised, and bring those forward to the Planning Commission. I think there's a schedule. It takes them months. This is step one, but I think it would go for their departmental review next month, and it'll actually, I think any zoning goes to City Council at some point. And so, so we'll, you know, to be determined as it goes through the process there.
Thank you all for coming.
All those in favor, adjourning the meeting.